You are now listening to the bestest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darryl Kinsey Jr. welcoming you to the Lap of Extra Mile for today, January 29, 2025. Thank you for joining us for a special Wednesday edition of the Extra Mile as we break down an incredible Rolex 24. And of course, to join me for all of this, my co-host, Gen B, Michael Ward.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us.
Glad to hear from you all. Chris will be back with us next week, and we'll start the show after we pay some bills. So sit tight. We'll be right back after this.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And we're back here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl, Jen, and Michael here with you this week. As I said earlier, Chris will be back with us next week. It is time to get into America's greatest endurance race, that is the Rolex 24. And I was there at the Rolex 24 all weekend long with my fiance, my 35th birthday present to myself. Always been a big fan of sports car racing. Never got a chance to go to this race. Finally got in a position to do it and said, you know what? Let's go see the Rolex 24. So it was a lot of fun, but man, I will tell y'all, the weather, you expect sunny and warm when you go to Florida in January because usually it's in the 60s. And then like 5 days before we decide to go, the jet stream decides to break and brings cold air from Siberia all the way down to Florida. So it was not great. And in fact, they had a winter storm the day we got there.
So what you're saying is the weather outside was frightful.
Oh, God. And there was no fire that was so delightful. Unfortunately, it was cold. It really made going to the track on Thursday a little bit difficult because at least by then the rain had stopped. But it was just so cold. We stayed through practice, watched qualifying for the Michelin Pilot Challenge and the WeatherTech cars. We were going to try to stay for the Mazda race, but by then the sun had gone down and it was just bitter cold. Miriam was not having fun. I was cold, so we just went home.
You know what would have warmed you up?
What?
The ashes of BMW's hopes and dreams.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. That was a team that struggled. They were on the struggle bus that last hour.
They had it out. They had potential, but then, yeah.
I will say the access that you get for just having the regular ticket for a 4-day pass was amazing. We got to walk through the garage area during the race.
So tell me, I might be asking a lot of questions. So tell me, when you got the regular ticket, so you got to walk through the garage. Was there any what was all that you could do exactly?
You could basically do everything but walk down pit road while the race was going on.
So you can go to the pit wall, kind of like NASCAR races where you can go inside the team. I think you can go inside the team's pit wall.
Well, during pre-race, you could go out onto the pits and see everything. And I've got some pictures of that I'll pop up here as we go along. But this is from Friday's race. But you could go out and do the pit walk and sign the track as well. We did that on Saturday. You got to walk in the pits and see them preparing. And sometimes some of the drivers would be out there. We saw Hinchcliffe with Pfaff Motorsports. Unfortunately, they didn't have a good day, which was sad for them because they got wiped out in that wreck. The one big wreck of the night for Rolex 24 off the restart with Kamui Kobayashi basically ran out of talent and hit the wall. But the craziest wreck, I think, the whole weekend was what happened in Mazda Challenge. Or in the MX-5 Cup race, where just the entire field, it was basically like the big one at Daytona for Cup when they go to run the 500. Somebody got put in the wall at the start, and just half the Miatas pile in. And we're sitting in the International Horseshoe, so we don't see it. We see it on the screen, but we don't see it live. And only half the field comes through turn number 1, and we're like, oh, that wasn't good. But it was a lot of fun being there at night when the cars were going around and the sun's going down and they're still going full bore. And you see the lights come on and they're just screaming by you. And it's everything you would imagine. And the moment that will always stick with me, because of course it was cold at night. So Miriam and I got some hot chocolate, and we're just walking down the International Horseshoe, the little walking path they have in front of the grandstands, and we're just walking, sipping our hot chocolate, and watching race cars go by.
Yep.
Was absolutely incredible to see. Larry B on Twitter says, "Love this. Thank you, sir, so much. What we don't love is what they're doing to our beloved Auto Club. Just a tragedy what's happening with that speedway or whatever they're going to do with it. But all in all, it was a great weekend of racing to be there and to see everything going on. What I will say is that the sound of the sports cars are not as loud as other motorsports, so you can do it without the ear protection, which I found interesting. The one thing I will say, though, the Cadillac GTP, that thing sounds so beautiful in real life.
Oh, man.
It sounds like a cup car, so it's very jarring compared to the other cars, because you'll hear like the normal like sports car engine sounds, and then you just hear like, oh, there goes Cadillac. Just sounds straight like sounds.
America, we don't know what a kilometer is.
Yeah, so we'll pop some more of these pictures up here for you. This is on Saturday. This is the lineup of the cars on
That's
pit
a
lane.
GTD, right? That's a GTD
this was the GTD cars.
Oh, okay.
And Miriam also had a good time. Definitely thinking of going back at some point. Hopefully next year, but we'll see.
Daytona.
But it was a good trip. And what I will say is, in that final hour, when you're watching the cars go by, you're watching all those battles take place, that we're going to talk about after this break coming up. And Yukiya, congratulations for the 300th episode. Thank you so much, sir. Yukio has been watching us for years, and to see that he's still around and still kicking and listening to IE Sports Radio is great. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that has been listening to us for 300 episodes strong, and hopefully we'll roll into the next 300. But back to what I was saying earlier. When we get into all the battles that we're going to talk about on the other side of the break, you would get so engrossed watching one class, you would forget where the GTP cars were. Because at one point, I was watching the LMP2s go at it, and then watching AWA try to get the lead back in their class from Aston Martin. Then I look up and I'm like, okay, where are the GTP leaders in all of this? Because you just lose them because there's so much action going on at once. It is really entertaining to be there and watch all four classes, but it's almost impossible to keep up with all four classes at once.
So I remember in social media, you were able to go and see one of the cars being worked on or being trying to be fixed. Just what was that experience? Just watching them just try to like desperately get that car back out there.
Well, we were watching the 93 get fixed when they broke the drive shaft, and we went down to the window where they were working, and they're just thrashing, trying to get the rear axle off. They had the other one set up, and it was really cool to be able to be there and look through the glass and see them working desperately, trying to get this car back in the race. And what was funny is that some of the fans that were in the garage, on the garage side, had come into the stall, so they had to back them up and like shut the garage door next to them. But then people just went to the other garage door and were like standing in the garage watching them work. It was like, guys, come on, they're trying to get their car back into the race.
And it's funny, you have 24 hours, so you definitely have enough time if you work efficiently.
Yeah. And the sad part was you see all that work going on, and then this is what was going on at the Lamborghini, because they had gone out a couple hours later. They had some sort of engine issue, or wheel hub issue, and this is all that was going on at their car.
Yeah, darn shame.
That's the universal sign of we give up, we're going home.
I don't know. I feel like they should have still tried with 2 cars.
I'm gonna be honest,
you know,
Michael. I will be very surprised if we see this car next year.
I would too. It's just had so many issues.
Yeah, everything about this project is just screaming, we're done at the end of this year, because Lamborghini is hemorrhaging money and they're not really winning. So I don't see them.
It was a good
back.
venture, but it's just frustrating just seeing it not go anywhere.
Yeah, and I have a video here of them.
Yeah, look at them just try to like work on the car. Like it's crazy. You see everything, like that desperation.
And they were scrambling trying to get this thing back in the race. Like they are throwing pieces. The crew guys were running towards where we were standing because their parts hauler is behind where you're seeing this video right here. So they would run by there, grab a box, throw it to the guys that are working under the car. Now they threw like some hot glue and then like a piece of tape or a roll of like duct tape to the guy that's on the bottom there, trying to get this thing back out. It was incredible to see them thrashing to get this car back into the race. And it's something you don't get to see in a lot of other motorsports.
Yeah, because honestly, if you don't win the race, fine. But if you finish, you still feel good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you still want to see the end of 24 hours on the clock while you're crossing, not in the hotel. And this will be the last picture I show before we go to break here. This little $5 piece here that the head of Honda Racing is holding, that's what took the 93 out of the race. That little part ended their day.
My goodness.
And that just shows you in 24 hours, it's the parts you don't think about that hurt you the most. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into everything that happened in the race, including the wild fight between BMW and Corvette. Sit tight. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy,
and we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
IE Sports Radio fans, it's your boy, the SoCal Saint, the host of the premier professional wrestling podcast online today, the IE Elite Wrestling Show. If you're a fan and have a passion for the world of professional wrestling, this is the show for you. I take you inside the ropes with all the athleticism, high-flying, and hard-hitting action, and then we take it backstage with all the backstage drama and backstabbing that goes on in the world of professional wrestling today. If something's going on in the world of professional wrestling, rest assured, the SoCal Saint knows what's going on, and he's going to let you know too. If you're a fan, check us out every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on IE Sports Radio. The IE Elite Wrestling Show, your direct feed for all that is professional wrestling, on the only network that is your direct feed for all that is sports. Check us out.
And we're back here on the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl, Jen B, and Michael with you to review the Rolex 24. And we're going to start getting into all four classes and how everything shook out in the United States' greatest endurance race. And we are going to start actually with LMP2 and then come back to GTP because, frankly, this was the class nobody wanted to win. The pole, and it really started on the first lap when the United Autosports number 2 that was on the pole spun in the opening race, spun in the opening laps. The PR1 Matheson car, Ben Keating was driving, ran into issues, locked up twice early in the race, and ended up being a non-factor near the end. AF Course in the 88 dominated the race as the time ticked down, but with 2 hours left, Michael, the most debilitating thing you ever want to see for a team leading the Rolex 24, and they're so close to victory. They have a big lead. The car just quit.
Yeah, it's frustrating. You know, you do all that work, you survive the nighttime, and then the car says, I can't do this anymore, Chief.
And that put the lead into the hands of Spike for AO Racing. And then as the car came for a pit stop, the alternator belt gave out. So that car ends up, and this was on the last pit
Jen's
stop.
shaking her head like, what else can happen now?
That car went from surefire going to win the race, and AO Racing dominated a good portion of the Rolex 24 with Spike in LMP2. And for them to come home with nothing was just such a gut punch. That gives the race win to Tower Motorsports with the 8 car. And then they got a post-race penalty today for a skid block violation.
Well.
So in all of this, United Autosports 22 gets the win in LMP2.
That just
didn't
goes
even get to celebrate, right?
That just goes to show you that it's really not over until it's over.
It really isn't.
It's not over till a week later. Oh.
It's the 1 week of Daytona. You're racing for a week.
Yeah. Of course, Tower Motorsports not happy with the skid block penalty. Unfortunately, it's a FIA mandated thing. So it's black and white. If that block is worn down too much, you're done no matter what. And apparently what happened is a suspension piece broke on the car, which caused the skid block to ride too low. But unfortunately, it broke at a time where it wore enough of that skid block down to IMSA had to make the call. And they took the
I feel like they did not want to make that call because it's 24-hour racing. Things can happen. Parts can break.
It's a call you never want to make, but you have to make it. So in all of that, the United Autosports car of Daniel Goldberg, Paul DiResta, Rasmus Lind, and James Allen win the race. So they get the Daytona Cosmographs, which I got to see one of those up close. Had an armed guard next to it, if you want to know how important that and how much that watch costs. So, yeah, it's unfortunate what happened.
Very nice watch.
It is a very nice watch. And there's 4 teams that are very happy to have one. So we'll jump forward to prototype or to GTP. And this was the race of Porsche versus BMW with a little bit of Acura thrown in as well.
A little bit of everybody. A little bit of everybody was in this.
Yeah, a little bit of everybody had their time up front. Cadillac, of course, they're usually strong during the nighttime with that naturally aspirated V8. It loves that.
They were strong tonight.
Yeah, they were. Unfortunately, the 40 got killed, which also
and then
took
the
out
31
the fat
also
Lamborghini.
got killed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, well, we did see. No, we didn't see what happened to the 31 because we had left by that point.
Yeah.
I think a rear suspension arm, I think, broke on the 31 because that car just fishtailed and went straight into the wall. They were able to repair that car and come back out and finish the race, but they were many laps down. But I think it'll also be remembered for in the final hour, Dries Van Doorn just had an epic meltdown trying to catch the 7 at the end of that race. Ended up running into the back of, I think, the 6. I may be mixing those numbers up, but ran into the back of one of the Porsches. It actually happened down where we were sitting on Sunday.
Oh, wait, he was already damaged before that.
Yeah, then he hit him again. I think that's what finally broke the nose.
Yeah.
And then after that, that car was just useless.
I didn't know how to feel because it was just like, I was just like, maybe they can do something during the pit stop. And then they were like, no, there's nothing we can do. You got to tough it out, brother.
And Jen, it's rough watching these teams go through 24 hours. You get to the final hours, and one mistake just costs you, and you were so strong all day.
Yes. Yeah. I actually turned the race back on. I was going back and forth between that and all the other games I had going on this weekend. And I turned it back on for the last hour and a half or so. And right after I turned it on, there was a wreck. I was like, oh my gosh, you almost made it. It's crazy. And then the spin out at the beginning of the race, I was like, I feel like I'm watching NASCAR.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, but it came down to Porsche Penske again, the 6 versus the 7. 6 ends up picking up the win. And that's the 20th win for Porsche at the Rolex. And Michael, Porsche and Penske just continue right where they left off last year in domination.
Yeah, like I said, Porsche this year in the hypercar field, and I'm talking about WEC as well, they are the team to beat. And Porsche was dominating endurance racing. Me and you remember, Darren. They were dominating well before hypercar was a thing. They were dominating LMP1 for a good chunk of the years.
Yeah, I mean, their battles with Audi in the waning days of LMP1 were legendary.
Yeah, so they came back and they're already putting their foot down.
Yep. So actually, sorry, I mixed up the numbers. The 7 ends up picking up the win with Nick Tandy, Philippe Nasser, and Lawrence Vanthoor. Thank God the Vanthoor brothers were not on track together, because the last time they were on track together, it didn't end well. They cleaned each other out. So
Some brotherly shoves.
Oh God.
We might see that. We might see that with Wayne Taylor racing.
Yeah. So, but the end of that race, Tom Blomqvist, if there was, you give that car 10 more minutes, I think he makes it interesting. So they ended up.
I was not expecting that Acura at all. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, that Acura found some speed, but the 60 ends up finishing second with Felix Rosenquist, Colin Brown, Scott Dixon, Tom Blomqvist. But Nick Tandy, Philippe Nasser, and Lawrence Vanthoor, they bring home the watches as Felipe Nasser brings that car home to victory.
And everyone else goes back to the factory and tries to figure out what the heck are we going to do about this Porsches.
Well, they don't have a lot of time because in a month they're at Sebring for the 12-hour.
And I just got to go back on the 963. That car was eating hypercars for breakfast on the straights.
The 963 just looked so stable all day long. If you watch it in the corners, and it had a lot of speed, which that's something that just dawned on me as we're sitting here talking about it. The sense of speed between all three classes when you are there is incredible. Because perfect example, we're in the kink, and the GT3 cars, it looks like they have to lift going through there. The LMP2s, they had a little bit of speed. Hypercar, it looked like a straightaway.
Yeah,
Like they just turned the wheel.
And for that kink,
going.
yeah, you do gotta lift. Can confirm you have to lift.
Yeah, but not in a hypercar. They
No,
just get the foot
hypercar
to the floor. Just turn the wheel like it was nothing. Just watch them go by.
You just take the wheel. I am the wheel.
Let's talk about GTD Pro. First, best class. If you go to an IMSA race
or any multi-class race in general,
watch GTD Pro.
Best class.
That is the class you watch all day. The last 4 hours of the race, all 6 cars that were on the lead lap were in a line, just hounding each other. It's the best class. GTD Pro is the best class in IMSA.
Yeah, it's the most entertaining class.
Yeah, I will say that. And this year it lived up to its nature because Chevy and BMW were trying to kill each other.
Hold up. Before you get to that, Rexy lost her teeth.
Yeah, poor Rexy. It was a horrible weekend for AO Racing.
Yeah, Rexy lost her teeth.
She
got battle scars.
Yeah, Rexy and her brother or sister, I don't know the gender of the cars, but they went through the wars.
Yeah, they did.
But we got to get into Ford versus Chevy versus BMW.
It was Ford versus BMW versus Corvette.
Well, it was really just Ford leading the race and Corvette and BMW trying to kill each other at the end. This all gets started because the Ford car is leading the race. And Paul Miller Racing, say what you will, we know y'all did it on purpose. The 48 starts slowing up the 4 car.
The 48? Jimmy Johnson's in this?
Not that 48, but Tommy Milner at that point was behind the wheel of the 4. I don't remember who was behind the wheel of the 48 and the 1. But at some point, they tell the 48, who was many laps down, by the way, that's going to come into play later. With Max Hess, Jesse Krohn, Augusto Farfus was behind the wheel at the time, and Dan Harper. Farfus is doing everything he can to slow up the Ford, straight up blocking at this point. He's slowing them up at the apex, not letting them pass. Meanwhile, the 1 is trying to chase down the 48, and it's basically a BMW sandwich with the 4 in the middle. They end up making contact, rips the back off the 4 car. The 48 ends up getting a penalty. Tommy Milner, while driving the car as the 48 is going into pit road, flips the bird to the 48 because he is absolutely pissed. There's a great picture that IMSA has of it that we obviously did not see that from where we were sitting in the grandstand, so we were so irritated. I was so irritated. I started flipping my own bird as the 48 was going by. Well, Corvette gets it back in blood on the 1 car because at some point, Corvette just decided, okay, we're not going to win this race.
NASCAR mode on.
But we're damn sure going to make sure BMW does not win this race. The 3 holds up the 1 car, and the 4 going into turn 1, and we watch all of this happen in front of us, goes into the low side and just knocks the 1 out the way. Everybody and their mom knew that was on purpose. Unsurprisingly, the 4 got a penalty.
Did you see the corner? No. You didn't see the BMW size car that was in the corner? No.
Oh no, he saw it. He didn't care. And today, IMSA, as they're doing their post-race social media, I got to show you all these pictures. So this is the first one they did. And sorry, didn't pop it up. This is the first one they did.
Move over. Oh man, that's intentional.
Hold on, we're not done yet.
Oh, that's so intentional.
I'm going to stop sharing and bring up the one
God.
they did after they saw the comments. They then made this one with the Corvette.
Move over. Yeah, it definitely got moved over. All right.
IMSA is leaning into this rivalry, and I hope Paul Miller versus Pratt and Miller just becomes a thing all season long, because it turned into NASCAR basically.
Oh my gosh.
Ben Sulayem would have had them publicly executed if this was GT, if this was WEC, but this is IMSA. Do what you like. So in all of that, that is going on. Christopher Mies, Frederick Vervitz. I'm going to butcher this last name, and I apologize. Frederick Vervitz and Dennis Olsen from Multimatic Motorsports picks up Ford's first win in GTD Pro, with all of that crap going on behind them. And like, they see the battle going on. It's like, okay, you guys keep doing that. We're going to go win now.
Yep.
No, it's hilarious.
Hey.
All that's happening, right? All that is happening, and they're just like, oh, okay, y'all do what y'all got to do. I'm going to just go ahead and win the race.
Yep.
That car had a Corvette breathing down its exhaust the whole race.
Yep.
And then it got swapped with a BMW, then another Corvette, then a BMW again, and then they just take each other out.
Well, at some
Never
point,
let them know your next move, guys.
At some point, the Corvettes just said, screw the win. We got to take out these BMWs. And one Corvette, though, did end up getting some Daytona Cosmographs at the end of the race, and that was Marvin Kirchhofer, Lars Kern, Ore Fidani, and Matthew Bell. Can these last names be any harder to pronounce in sports car racing? In the
Try
AWA.
hockey.
Oh, Lord. I can't even. I'll let you have it on hockey. Too many Russian names for me.
I can't even say the first names of some of them guys.
I think hockey and sports, we got to play a game, sports car driver or hockey player at some point.
We'll get Adam on.
Yes, we'll have to play that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, AWA ends up picking up the win in GTD, and they were in a battle with Heart of Racing near the end of that. This was another class that bordered on nobody wanted to win, because a lot of the favorites, Wright Motorsports, Sun Energy, all of them ran into issues at some point during the night. Pfaff Motorsports got taken out in the big wreck with the LMP2s. Or sorry, with the big wreck with the 40 that we mentioned earlier. But AWA Racing picks up the win, and they got bump and run at one point by the Heart of Racing. They were able to come back, pick up the win, and Wright Motorsports, that was the pole sitter, ended up going back down the order, came back, nearly had a chance to win that race. They end up second, and the Heart of Racing stands on the podium in third. So the Rolex 24 is now complete. One of the best races all year. I will say this, with the new rules as far as class splitting and splitting everything in GTD by GTD Pro and GTD AM, it creates a situation where all of these classes still have multiple cars on the lead lap unless they run into issues. At one point, there were 9 cars, or the entire GTP field was still on the lead lap. There were 5 or 6 cars. Actually, I'm looking at it now. 7 cars finished on the lead lap in GTD Pro. That is unheard of in sports car racing. usually in sports car racing, if you had a car on the same lap, it was a close race. Now we've got 3 battling for the win in the top category.
This season might be very interesting. And when I say this season, Petit Lamar is going to be very interesting.
I think IMSA is going to be the series to watch this year. And I think it's going to be the series to watch. And, Michael, we've been talking about it since GTP was announced that they were going to do this. It has the capability of being a new golden age of sports car racing, and we're living it.
Yep, and enjoying it.
Yeah, and we have Alpine coming next year to America.
Aston in next month.
Yep, Aston's going to start with the 24 or with the 12 hours of Sebring. I'm so sad that car wasn't here.
Oh yeah, how did that V12 sound?
I wanted to hear it live, but maybe next year. Alpine is supposed to be coming next year.
Right.
As they're getting ready to break into the United States market. And then Hyundai is stepping up with Genesis in 2027. And oh, by the way, Ford might be joining Hypercar at some point.
Jen's like, dang, this is getting crazy.
Which, trust me, if you're trying to get into motorsports, IMSA is probably the class to watch right now. My question for them is, how are you going to fit all these damn cars in the garage?
That is a very big question.
There's some GT teams that are going to be sad that they're not going to be able to race the Rolex 24.
I think Ferrari should send the hypercar over, but that's just me.
I've been waiting for it. They've got AF Corse over here. I've been waiting for them to make a.
I really think they should do it because there's a lot of money here.
I'm just trying to figure out.
I know their banks are running a little empty hiring Hamilton, but come on now.
I mean, they've probably made that money back by now on that contract, but it's just hard. Where do you find the space for all these cars? It's like the meme with like.
I think they're gonna have to start sharing pit boxes, Daryl.
You're gonna have to. You're just gonna have to look. One team shares a pit box, like Formula One.
Y'all are gonna have to start sharing pit boxes now, guys.
Because what we have. 11 GTPs. Now, obviously, not all are 12 GTPs. Now, not all those cars are running the full schedule. The Mustang Sampling and Lamborghini are not, but that's still 10 for the full season.
Yeah.
Alpine is bringing 1 car, so that's going to be 11. I think Hyundai is bringing at least 1, so that's going to be 12 full-time cars. Ford's going to make 13.
I'm sorry, what?
If Ford makes a hypercar, then we're going to have 13 cars.
Not 13 cars.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I'm sorry, what?
They're going to double it.
Oh, my God.
All by themselves.
I was about to get scared there. I was like, sorry, what?
They're not, 13 cars total, not 13 by themselves.
That would be a sight.
Jesus, that'd be so fun.
I wonder who's gonna win.
It's gonna be a Ford. No, probably no. Let's not lie. It's still gonna be a Porsche.
Right, Porsche would still end up winning with 13 Fords out there. Let's be honest.
Let's be real.
But no, that'd be 13 cars with Ford, and God knows who else wants to come to GTP. There's a rumor that Corvette might do it. I don't see that because Cadillac is GM's representative. So I don't think they would compete against themselves.
Who else would like to be a Audi? Actually, Audi's bankrupt with Formula One right now.
I'm so mad that the Audi LMDH program never got off the ground.
Peugeot, hey, send your car over there. You're not having fun in Wick, we know.
Yeah, I would love to see the Peugeot car come, but I say all that to say, I don't know how they're going to fit all these cars that want to race the Rolex 24 and IMSA, but they're going to have to figure it out somehow. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and IMSA always.
Dude, Nissan can try to take a stab at endurance racing again.
Yep. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we do have some updates in Formula One, and not the good kind. And, of course, we get ready for the Clash at Daytona. Clash at Daytona, sorry. The Clash at the LA Coliseum. No, we're not there either. The Clash at Bowman Gray. Talk about that on the other side of the break here on the Extra Mile on iSports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen B, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back here in the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl, Jen B, and Michael here with you. As with the Rolex 24 out of the way and the sports car teams now getting a much-deserved break before heading out to Sebring in March, as they head back to Florida to complete the 36 Hours of Florida, as it's called. Mm-hmm. We now turn our eyes to the upcoming Formula One and NASCAR seasons and IndyCar as well. And we're going to start with Formula One, and we're going to start with the second one in that first. Because Ben Salim has lost his damn mind. Excuse me for the language.
I think that ship has already sailed.
I shared this to you guys while I was at the racetrack for the Rolex 24, and this is from Twitter, or whatever we want to call it now, Matt Gallagher, and he says it succinctly, and I'll just read it. The FIA have lost their expletive minds with these swearing punishments. 3 offenses and you're banned for a month. That is a month of races you will not be allowed to run. And a championship points deduction. This year is going to be an all-out brawl between the drivers and the FIA. Now, we're going to have Chris on next week to join us. And he basically said in our Discord that it's another rule attributed to Max and only retaliating because public opinion turned on them so badly. I don't understand the swearing thing. I have not understood it at all.
Me neither, to be honest with you.
And at some point, someone has to be an adult in the room, ironically,
Baker Mayfield.
and tell Ben, you are actively hurting us right now. This is a conversation that should have ended last year.
Yes.
We should not be still talking about not only this, but these new. So I'd like to remind everybody, the drivers don't know when their audio is being played on television. So you're telling me they're in the car, they have an issue, they say a curse word. It gets if the media decide to play it, now they get in trouble? What are we doing here?
Oh, that's ridiculous.
They don't know. And I think it's ridiculous because it's just the nature of motorsport. When things happen, of course, you're going to be pissed off.
Right.
So I'm just like, why are we regulating curse words, really?
Yeah.
Like, really,
They're all
why?
adults.
Why? Who are we offending right now?
They're
Twitter? Who cares
their
about Twitter? I don't.
sensibilities.
Who are we offending?
So here are the penalties. And this is for swearing or criticizing the FIA.
I'm sorry.
This ain't going to go well for international level drivers. A first offense is punishable by a 40,000 euro or a 40,000 euro or 33,800 pound fine. A second offense is an 80,000 euro fine and a 1 month suspension. A third offense is a 120,000 euro fine and a 1 month suspension. I get it. Ben Sulayem comes from a different part of the world. And I'm going to be very kind with what I'm going to say right now, because I do not want to get myself in trouble. But he is stepping into an international space. And in that space, things are not controlled like they are where he's from. This is ridiculous. This is childish. This is juvenile. You are the leader of an international motorsports organization, and you're acting like a child because the F1 paddock had the gall to speak their mind. You are not going to win this fight.
Just also imagine how much problems this is going to cause too. Like I don't want to imagine it.
Somebody's going to miss a race. Somebody's missing races over this. And it's probably going to be Max, because he doesn't care anymore. Max is absolutely going to eat that 1 month suspension, I think.
I hope not, because I really do not want like, because I think he's mentally checking out of the sport.
Well, it's because Ben keeps
and if that happens, he's done.
Well, this is a BBC article from Andrew Benson, and that I'm reading from, and this is some of the comments he heard. Multiple sources have told BBC Sport that a lot of people at the FIA are against the move. One source said it was pushed through on a snap e-vote with no consultation with other stakeholders or the GPDA or the FIA's own drivers' commission. Another said it was not right to act in this way and questioned why this could not have been scheduled for discussion at the next meeting for the World Motorsport Council. A source close to one top driver, probably one of Max Verstappen's friends, told BBC Sport the move was ridiculous, adding that Mohammed bin Sulayem acts like a dictator And the GPDA, the Grand Prix Drivers Association, said it had no comment on the matter for the time being. They should strike. The F1 drivers should refuse to race the first race of the season until these rules are changed. I think we are at that point now where enough is enough. And Ben thinks he is bigger than the sport. Nobody's coming to watch you, Benjamin. Ain't nobody paying to see you, Otis. They're paying to see Max Verstappen, not you. Get out your feelings. And at this point, I think the F1 drivers, they should come together and not drive the Australian Grand Prix.
Just not show up.
I absolutely think they shouldn't show up. I don't even mean like go there and pull a 05 Indianapolis GP. I think they shouldn't even get on their planes. I think the cars should have to sit there empty. And Ben Salim has to explain why he pissed off the entire paddock.
Just imagine, at Bahrain, there's just no teams there.
Yeah.
No Red Bull, no Ferrari. You don't even get to see Hamilton's debut race for Ferrari. You don't get to see Mercedes there. You don't get to see Kimi Antonelli. Nothing. Just no team show up.
Yeah. I mean, Jen, it's like if hockey started finding guys for hitting. And I don't mean like the ridiculous hits that don't belong in the sport. I mean run-of-the-mill hitting.
Yes. Yeah. It makes no sense. And especially when the drivers have no control over when their audio gets played on TV. I mean,
that's kind of the
it's
thing
just
that's
the
getting me. They can't control that. I'm sorry to
right.
cut you off,
It's the nature of the sport. It's stressful. They're in a high stress situation. Something's not going right. It's human nature.
And that's my thing about it. They're in the highest stress situation. This is how I can tell Ben Salim has never driven a race car in his life. I don't think he's even opened Assetto Corsa and driven. I don't think he has an Automobilista. I don't think he has Automobilista 2 on his computer.
Definitely get Automobilista 2. It's a very good game.
Please do. They just had a 1.63 update. Shameless plug of our favorite game. If they want to sponsor us, we will definitely take that, by the way.
Also plug me in Le Mans Ultimate, just saying.
Sure. But back to the point at hand. Every race car driver in a stressful situation curses. If you listen to the NASCAR scanners,
oh man,
the amount of ways they can use the F word, it's hilarious. It's just, I heard Jeff Gordon say it for the first time. I'm like, whoa. It's just what they do. The drivers get stressed. They only have so much time to communicate, and they're going to take the path of least resistance. Sometimes that means dropping an F-bomb.
Yep. You got to get your point across, and you got to get it
at
across
least they
fast.
don't.
Yes.
It's like, they can. That's how they get like the stress off, just by letting off an F-bomb. I'd better them do that than use their cars.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like could potentially happen. We're not going to use F-bombs anymore. I'm just going to use someone else's front wing.
Well, I hope we don't see that, because Formula One is not the place for it.
It's not, and these cars are too expensive to be doing all that.
Yep. So let's get into the second piece of Formula One news for the day, as we're going to go a little bit longer in this episode, in this special Wednesday edition of the Extra Mile.
6 hours of the Extra Mile.
Not that long. I got work in the morning.
Me too.
Unfortunately, Hamilton had an off during a private test today. A lot of people are trying to make something out of nothing. I think stuff like this happens.
Oh no, Hamilton spun during testing, like every other driver does.
Yeah, like it happens. I don't think if this is happening during the main test in Bahrain, then we might have issues. But he's getting used to a new car. He's trying to find the limit. And sometimes you go over that limit.
Yeah. So I don't know what Twitter is trying to. I don't know. People like to jump the gun in Formula One, and it just makes the sport annoying.
Yep.
Oh no, he spun. He's washed. He's trying to find what he can do with that car. Also, he's driving the SF23, and that car has a very twitchy rear end. So cut him some slack, please.
A twitchy rear end, huh?
Yeah, SF20. I hate you.
I'm sorry, I had to.
But yeah, that car is very unstable. So yes. He's probably looking at Charles like, how did you get podiums in that car?
That car was very it was stressful.
Yeah.
I don't know how he drove that car. It's just ridiculous.
Well, Daryl, you get to enjoy that stress this year too. Good luck, brother.
Yeah, we get to do this Ferrari train together as long as the pit stops aren't ridiculous.
You get to join me in pain too.
Yes.
He's not gonna enjoy it. Look at him. He's like, I'm gonna hate this year.
So let's go ahead and get into the one race that is this week, which is the NASCAR Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium, where we're going to hear a lot of people be very hypocritical after the complaints about the LA Coliseum. Going to treat this like the best race ever when it's going to be the same type of racing we saw at the Coliseum, but it's not in liberal California, so most of them aren't going to care. Yeah, it's going to be like that when we talk about NASCAR this year. Just going to throw that out there. So just get over it. But
just get over it.
This is always a race that the point, the rules are made up and the points don't matter. And it's just fun to see stock cars back again. You're going to see a lot of new faces with their new teams for the first time. But how much can we really take from this race, especially with the heat format and the main event? We're not going to race like this at all after this year. And then we go straight into Daytona, which Daytona probably shouldn't even be a points race at this point, real talk. The real season doesn't really start till week 2. So how do we really gauge the performance of teams going into the season after going through the Clash this weekend?
I don't really think you can, because you're dealing with a short track, and then you're also dealing with a super speedway where anybody can technically win. Realistically, most of NASCAR is on, I want to say, the 1.5-mile tracks like Michigan, Las Vegas, those types of tracks. I think those will be where you gauge the performance. It's like the first race doesn't really matter. This race doesn't really matter. It's all just for fun to get everybody, ready for the season.
It's always fun to see the cars out there for the first time, and then they're going to Daytona where they'll have actual practice, which will be nice. and then we get to buckle down for the regular season. But this is just a celebration that stock car racing's back. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
We have the modified race there on Saturday as well with the heat races. And a lot of fun is going to be had. You guys know how I feel about Bowman Gray at this point, but it is what it is. At this point, just go out there, put on a good race that we can watch, and we'll roll on to the rest of the season in a NASCAR season that could be consequential. And I think that's every season, but definitely this year, depending on how the playoffs go, we're going to hear a lot of that conversation during the year. There will be no changes to the playoffs this year. There may be changes next year. I don't know what you could change at this point. My thing is stop touching it. Either go back to all 36 count or stop touching it. Because you're never going to change the system to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
So either go back to what we had pre-playoffs or just stay the course. So it will be fun to see cars on the track, though. I think that's everything we can all agree on. And that race will be this Sunday at 8 o'clock. I wish this race was on Saturday.
Saturday night short track racing? Yeah.
Yeah. I understand why they moved it to Sunday night, but I cannot get down with the Sunday night. It makes it so hard to try to get back to work on Monday.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, you watch Sunday night football. Yeah, but I actually care about this. I turn a Sunday night football game off at halftime if it's not that great and go to bed. I'm going to stay up for the race, no matter how good it is. So, I wish this was on Saturday. I really do. So, well, we're going to get ready to we're going to get ready to get out of here for this evening. We'll be back on Monday, February 3rd, regularly scheduled, to talk about everything from the Clash and get ready for the Great American Race to Daytona 500 and latest news in IndyCar and Formula One as well. Chris will be joining us as well as we get back rolling in 2025 in the Extra Mile. And before we go, I just want to say thank you all so much for listening these last 300 episodes. Hopefully we're around for 300 more. And shout out to Lolita Camello, our former host and former co-host, current editor over at motorsports.com. Ran into her during the Rolex 24 weekend. It was great. Finally getting to see her in person. And 3 ADHD people together running through a Bass Pro Shops was hilarious. So, we're going to go ahead and get out of here for Michael and Jen. I'm Daryl. Thank you so much for watching this edition of The Extra Mile, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.